All right, we're just going to take a quick look at the finished painting, and you'll see the details close up, and that's what we're going to work on this tutorial. Enjoy. We'll see you in just a second. Hi everybody, Chris Petri here. Thanks so much for coming by. I just wanted to mention I have some renovations I'm doing in my studio, so you're going to see a little bit of a different setup going forward for a couple months, I would say. So you're going to see some videos with the camera angle like so, with I have a tripod set up with my camera. So this is my normal camera that I always use, but I don't have my overhead gear set up. I had to remove all of that, and we're doing some work here in the studio. So we're rearranging things, and so hope you don't mind. Let me know how you, in the comment section, how you like this new setup. We're just going to do this for a little while though. Maybe again, just a couple months until I get my studio back to normal. So, but this should be a good angle here. It gives you a little different look to the paper and the palette, and maybe pretty close to the overhead gear that I usually have. But let me know in the comment section if you do like this setup and how it turns out this video. But we're just going to have a fun time. We're going to do a landscape type painting with maybe a farmhouse or a barn, some trees and some grass fields and things like that. So we're going to have a fun time together. Hope you'll enjoy this painting, and we'll see you in just a few minutes. I'm just going to take a quick break, and I have to reset up my camera. Okay, so I'll be right back. All right, so we're getting started. And the first thing I'll do is I'm using some Fabriano Artistico paper, so we have some really good paper here. I'm going to make a border around my scene. This kind of just helps us to remember that we're working within this rectangle. So this is our space we have to work within. We want to make sure when we're drawing any subject matter that we might be viewing. So if you're working from a book or from your iPhone or your Samsung phone, or a TV or a magazine, or if you're just working and looking out the window, or if you're out on location doing some plein air painting, whatever it is, it's always good to know that you have this rectangle, this frame that you have to work within, and you want to make sure, we're always going to want to make sure we fill this up with important, interesting subject matter. We really never want to fall into the pitfall of having a large rectangle of space that we have to work in and paint in, and the next thing you know, we're drawing a small bit of information and painting that, and the next thing you know, we have all this empty space. So we always want to fill up our space, our rectangle, with plenty of good information. So I'm just going to have a fun time here. We're going to do just a country scene with some trees, a farmhouse, a little bit, maybe we'll do a little bit of a lake or like a marsh area in front. Just some interesting kind of things. Maybe a little bit of kind of like maybe a bay area or something like that, where there's maybe a farmhouse or a home along the bay and there's some boats. We'll have fun. We'll just kind of go with the flow here. But the first thing I'll do is I'll just kind of want to set up my my space division for the sky and the ground level. So usually a good rule of thumb is you want to go about a third. So maybe a third of land and 2/3 sky. That always seems to be a really comfortable spot to put your land, like so. And then your sky is up top. You can also go 3/4 land and then just have a tiny bit of sky too. That also works. Probably we want to avoid doing what they call the half and half trap, which is making your paper divided right in the center. You can sometimes divide your paper in half in the center point. It depends on the composition. You don't always have to hold yourself to exact like methods and techniques all the time, but a good, again, just a basic good rule is it kind of looks good if you can kind of make the space division in your painting not quite half halfway across the middle, but sometimes it does work. It depends on what you're doing. But in any case, we're just getting into a little theory about dividing up the spaces in your painting. That's all. Something to consider when you're sitting down and you're going to do a painting. So I'm going to just do an interesting square shape first for like we're going to do maybe a house along a bay. So I'm thinking let's call this like a bay scene here. So we got a bay here, so we're going to have some water. But let's get the house in, and let's get a roof on there. So we just do like a triangle like that, and then we have the square for the house, and then maybe we're going to do another roof alongside that there. That'll be another segment of the building, of the house there. And then let's even go with some other shapes too. Let's do a shape over here, and that's going to be another portion of the house over here, and then maybe another bit of roof over here too. So if you can kind of see how we have this set up, a really simple bit of shapes, really just squares and rectangles. A rectangle here, a square here, another square here. Well, this is kind of a rectangle more or less here. This is another square here. This is another square here. And then these are rectangles for the roofs, and you can kind of see that. They're just kind of rectangles with a little bit of a angle there on the ends by where the roof eaves come down by the eaves, and along the gable ends you have a little bit of an angle there. Same thing over here, a little bit of an angle. Not too much though, a little bit. This is straight up. A little bit of an angle on these two. Over here we're going to keep this pretty straight like that. And maybe we're going to have a window or two, maybe a door. And then this portion of the house over here sits back a little further. So the window is going to be a little smaller. This window is going to be a little larger. Maybe we'll have a door over here, like so. And you can just block that in with some pencil shading. And then we can have some trees alongside our house. So that always looks good. And we're going to have a couple of chimneys. And there might be some trees over here too, on that side. And then maybe we'll have another house in the distance over here as well. And then we're going to have more trees over here, like so. And then some more trees here in the distance. And then maybe we'll have another larger tree here, like that. And another couple of trees over here, like so. And I have these trees kind of leaning into the picture this way, just to kind of keep the focus in here, like so. And I might do the same thing over here. I might just lean some trees over this way, a little bit like that, like so. And then I'm going to make some fields over here, and I definitely want to have some interesting water features over here. So what I'll do is I'll make the water over here, like so. And we'll make the water feature kind of like this. And I think that is really going to be the basic layout of our painting. I hope you'll kind of see that it's very simple. Again, we got our house in here, and we'll have some more bushes in front. And then maybe we'll even do, again, since we're along the water here, let's do a couple sailboats here. We'll do a sailboat over here. Maybe another sailboat over here. We'll put a mast up here like so. And the same thing here, we'll put another mast up here like that. And maybe a boom back here. So we just have a couple boat shapes here, and then maybe one more boat over here. Like this, smaller boat. And I think that's all we really need for this, for our sketch. And then once we go in, we'll put some simple washes on, and you'll see how much fun we're going to have just doing a simple, a shore house along a bay with some water, some grass. It's a country kind of scene. Maybe it's the country along where the ocean is, and we're going to have more fun than you can imagine by painting this. So That's the really exciting part, is the painting. But the pencil sketching, we have to do that first. And if you just do a basic quick sketch out of your subject matter, whether you're working again from books, magazines, your phone, your computer, your TV, if you're working outside, outdoors, whatever it is, you just always remember, get your basic drawing in with your pencil first, as best you can get it. You're always working on your pencil drawings. You're always working 10, 15 minutes every day, just doing a little drawing, a little sketching, anything you can grab. You do an apple, an orange, you do a pencil, you do a paintbrush. You always work on your drawing skills, because that's really going to help you as an artist. If you can draw things and render things pretty accurately, it'll be a lot easier for you to get a good looking painting. So always remember that. Please try to get those 10, 15 minutes in a day of drawing. No matter what happens, you can find that 5, 10 minutes to do some sketching and drawing, pencil drawing, or even pen drawing. Whatever you have, you just have some paper and a sketch pad or whatever, and you do some drawing skills. And then let's get started with the painting. Give me 1 second. I'll take a quick break. I'm going to get some water for my water bucket, and we'll get started. All right, let's get back to work here. Most of what I want to do is probably paint this Ala Prima. I'll wet some brushes here. So I have a few different size brushes. Kolinsky sable brushes. Small, medium, and large. And then I have a needlepoint brush too. So I'll start off with my smaller brush here. I'll use the larger brush for the sky washes and the foreground and the water probably. And I'll use my smaller brush here for the trees and the house. I have a sponge here, damp sponge. I trim sponges down in half. I really don't need a whole large sponge. I just need a little bit of the sponge, so I use half a sponge. And I set that damp sponge next to me here, next to my water container. And then I have a travel palette, which is fine. It has 16 colors, which is fine for me. This is plenty. I can mix all my colors with the standard color selection I have. And basically the colors are really simple. We have burnt umber, French ultramarine blue, cerulean blue, ultramarine violet, burnt sienna, cobalt blue. We have sap green, viridian green. Then we have raw umber, yellow ochre, raw sienna, cadmium lemon yellow, cadmium yellow lemon. And then we have alizarin crimson, cadmium red, cadmium orange, and I think there's a little bit of, I think there's some ivory black in here. Let's see what we have here. I'm not sure. My palette is a little disorganized. This might be cadmium yellow and then cadmium lemon yellow. I'm pretty sure that's how it is. But in any case, I'll just take some paper towel or some tissue and just get that let's get started with our darks first. So we're going to do Ala Prima. I'm going to use the Ala Prima method, which is basically starting with all the darks, trying to get the darks in here. And these are all Winsor Newton colors and some Holbein colors. So I always mention I do use pretty strictly either Winsor and Newton paints or Holbein paints. And again, quickly, my colors, burnt umber, burnt sienna, raw umber, alizarin crimson, cadmium red, raw sienna, yellow ochre, cobalt blue, French ultramarine blue, cerulean blue, ultramarine violet. This is sap green and viridian, which is green, kind of like a turquoise green. And then we have the cadmium yellow lemon and regular cadmium yellow, and then some cadmium orange, and then cadmium red and alizarin crimson. So those are, again, you'll notice I use the same colors over and over for all the years now that we've been working together. So, But some of you that might be kind of new to the channel, just I'll cover my colors quickly so you can jot them down if you want. You can always stop the tape and rewind, and then you can get the colors jotted down if you need to. So again, we're going to start out with the Ala Prima method, which is just let's get the darks in first. So we're going to do burnt umber and French ultramarine blue. That makes a great dark. And then we can add some cerulean blue to get kind of a grayish color like that. And that could be for our roofs. And we can even add some alizarin crimson there too to give ourselves a little bit of a spin on the gray color. So you have like your cerulean blue mixed with a little bit of the burnt umber and French ultramarine blue. That gives you a nice kind of bluish gray. And then you can add some alizarin crimson to that. And then you can have a little bit of that alternating change of a little bit of the red mixed in there with the gray, which always looks good. So I think we have a good mixture to start. And we're going to do our darks here first. And we're going to do our house here. I'll try to paint around the mast of the boat, like so. And as you can see, I'm using a pretty, even though this is sort of a small brush, you can kind of see this is not extremely small. This is a number 6, I believe. Round brush. This is a Charles Reed travel brush, and these are great brushes. They come in a set of 3. And they're fantastic. When you're done, you can just take the end off of it and put the brush inside this. And then you can put this in a purse, a pocketbook, your shirt pocket. As long as you rinse off your brush and clean all the paint off it, and then you put it back in here, you can. It's got a hole in the top so that it'll dry, and you can stow this like that and put it in. Again, you can put it into your pocket, your duffel bag, your purse, whatever you have. If you're outdoors painting or traveling and you want to have a quick, easy time of getting your brushes into action and then stowing them away, these are great brushes for that. So I'm going to go with a little more brown here. I might even go in with some raw umber, and I'll utilize a little more of my palette. So I'll take a little bit of that darker color, mix it in there, maybe a little cerulean blue too. And then maybe I'll just add a little bit of that there. And as you can see, I just got my darkest dark in by just painting in the dark of the house on the side here. And you can always use a pencil or something to make a line if you need to. And then I'll rinse this brush off here, pick up a little bit of that gray color, and let's go over here and see if we can get this grayish color in over here. This looks good. And then we'll get some more, maybe we'll use some burnt sienna here. And let's use some burnt sienna over here too as well. With some blue, I'll get some more. The key thing here is you'll see that I dry off my brush. So once I rinse my brush off, I check that water off on the sponge. That's real important. This way, when you go back into your paints and you're mixing these darks, they don't get watered down too much. You want to definitely keep that paint thick. So you're really working with almost just straight paint and hardly any water right now to get these wonderful darks in. And that's kind of like the key to Ala Prima painting, really, is getting those darks in first, and then that tends to really help the painting along if you can get the darks in first and then you work the lighter lights in later. And I'll just mix some more. So I'm trying to get in these buildings here. these houses actually along the coastal area here. And you can see I'm going to work in some green now. And if I'm going to put in green for the trees, then I want to add some of that green to the houses too. A little bit in the paint, it doesn't hurt. And I'll get some roofs here too. Let's get some of those roofs going. A little bit of that grayish color for the roofs, like that. Maybe a little bit of blue and green. So you're just working your colors that you have on your palette, but you're just making lighter tones now, lighter tonal values for your roofs. So you have your roofs, they're going to be lighter. So therefore I just water these down, add a little more water to these, and I don't use as much paint. So a little more water, less paint. With your first darks you're going in on the Ala Prima method, you're using your real darks first with lots of paint. Then as you start doing the roofs, which are lighter, then you're lightening up with the paint and you're adding more water and having more of a, you can see that wash is lighter, and that's how we get that lightening effect of the rooftops. And then we're going to start blending in our trees. So we're going to have that sap green mixed in with a little bit of raw umber. I don't want to go with straight sap green. I think I'd like the trees maybe a little purple too. I'm going to start introducing some ultramarine violet purple color. And if I do that, then I want to also add it again in a little spot or two on the houses here, just so it doesn't look sort of, I'll splash a little bit for the trees like that, maybe a little bit of finger tapping just to get some variation. And then I might go in with a little bit of green, strong green there. Maybe here and there, just a couple. Then I might blend that down a little bit, make it lighter there. And then we'll do some blue. Let's get some cobalt blue for some water. Let's introduce the feeling of water now, coolness. Coolness for the water. And that's going to be right under the boats, where the boats are. And then you can gray it down a little bit too as you go and lighten it up, just so it's maybe in a few spots you have it a little bit more exciting straight color, and then you can gray it down a little bit for other areas where you don't want to have too much exciting color. You might want to just tone it down. So where your focal points are, you put in the more exciting colors. So I'll put some exciting greens and yellows here too. So that might be where there's some bushes and things along the house, some really exciting greens. You can use some green and yellow like that for some of the areas. And then you tend to mellow that wash out toward the end, the sides of the paintings, because you really don't want too much exciting color maybe on the outer edges of your painting. I think I learned that from Mel Stabin, who I always have been following for a long time. He used to always say, try to keep your most exciting colors in the center of your painting, and then try to mellow out the colors along the edges of the painting, so that the focal areas you're going to have the more exciting straight paint, almost straight paint. You're obviously mixing different colors and things, but you tend to have much better success at holding someone's attention on your painting if you're doing more of the exciting, really rich powerful colors in the center of your painting, and then as you're on the borders of your painting, let's say around the sides of your painting here, as well as maybe on the top and the bottom, if you keep those colors more relaxed and more gray in color, so you gray down the mixes a little bit, not as exciting color, you tend to have a really good chance of, again, having your colors look more pop and have excitement as you're in the center of your focal areas. Just an idea. And so I'm going to continue on here with some more greens here. So for my trees there, but I do want to gray those trees down over here. I don't want to have them, again, I don't want to have too much then I can take my brush like this and do a little like that, and then the same thing here, maybe a little scrubbing kind of feel for that, a little finger tapping, a little bit of raw umber in there too, just to have a little more interesting colors, and then some more purple. And I think we're going to take a break soon, so I'm going to do a little bit of the purple trees over here. So I'm going to keep these trees a little more purple in color. I dry off my brush really well. It also helps if you can dry your brush off on a piece of paper towel or a tissue. Sometimes you can get a little more of that you know, lighter kind of looking foliage for the trees. I also like to splash on some color like that, a little bit there. And then some cerulean blue. And again, I'm not getting too fancy over here on this. Again, I'm graying down the colors over here on the sides of the painting, but most of the exciting colors along here. And we'll do some more details. Let's take a quick break. I don't want to keep working on and on without taking a break. It's always good to take some breaks. Give yourself a time to relax for 5-10 minutes, and this way you can come back in again while this has dried a little bit for 10 or 15 minutes or 20 minutes. It makes it a little easier if you want to go back in and do some details like chimneys or some other trees maybe in the background behind the houses, or maybe some details to the boats. Whatever you're doing, if you give your watercolor a chance to dry a little bit and then you come back in again, that's why breaks are good. Breaks will allow your painting to dry a little bit, and then you can go back in and start putting in more details. And again, it won't become like a lot of usually if you're adding too much paint as you go and you're not taking breaks, you're not allowing things to set up and dry a little bit on your page, you'll have more of a chance of everything running into each other and sort of blending, and then you lose some of your details that you'd like to have. So I'm thinking you're going to want to like to have details. That's why I mention it, to take breaks, because I think you want to get those really nice details to some of your the house, the structures, some chimneys, a little more trees, maybe some details to the boats. If you just keep working and working and working and you don't let this dry right now, then you're not going to be able to get some of those finer details. I think that's the main point why I do mention to take a break and let this dry a little bit. You know, usually 10-15 minutes will allow this to dry enough that you can continue to work, or if you have a blow dryer, you can use a blow dryer and dry off the paper a little bit. But let's come back in just a minute or two. I just want to take a quick break, let this set up a little bit, and then we'll continue to work. And I think we have most of the painting done. We just have the sky to finish, the water here, and some of the ground and grass and some of these areas in the foreground. So we'll be right back. All right, we're back from our break. Let's keep working here. So the paper's had a chance to dry a little bit, which is really good. Again, we're using Fabriano Artistico paper. I'm very happy so far with the way this is looking. We have, again, the most exciting darker tonal values in the center of the painting where the focal point is. And then we have the lighter grayed down colors on the outer edges of the painting, which is good too. Kind of keeps us focusing in on the center of the excitement of the painting. So we'll keep working now. I'm going to probably let this I'm going to let this continue to dry as we start to do some of the sky wash. I'll get a larger brush now. This is a number 12 Da Vinci travel brush, so this is a larger, you can see this compared to what we've been working with so far. You can see the difference. The larger brush is going to be helpful doing the sky wash, so that we have some really a large brush to really get those washes on quickly. We don't want to let things dry too much by using a smaller brush, so that's the advantage of a larger brush. You can get things done quickly so that everything blends nicely, all your washes and colors. And let's see if we can work this out here. I'm going to empty my water container and then put some fresh clean water. So whenever I do skies, I tend to always add fresh clean water to my water bucket. And also the same with like water. So water and sky, I tend to empty out my water bucket and get fresh water. And then in this case, I'm going to do two things. I'm going to add fresh clean water to the paper first and then add my color over top. But before I do that, I'm going to clean off the brush a little bit, take off some water, and I'm just going to do a very light, damp line across the tops of the trees and the houses here along the coastal area. The reason I do this is so this way the water won't infiltrate down into the trees and the tops of the houses so much. If you have just put a little bit of a damp line across the top of your trees and your house, rooftops of the houses, a little bit of a damp brush there, that'll keep any water from dripping down and going into your other areas of your painting, which can be very helpful. We did a lot of hard work on the house here and these trees. We don't want all of a sudden to put watercolor washes in the sky and then all of a sudden it starts like infiltrating into all those areas that we took a lot of time in to be very careful and precise. So let's get started. Again, I'm going to add some fresh clean water to the paper up at the highest point of the page, or our rectangle that we drew in. So I'm going to get the water, fresh clean water up there to dampen the paper, but I'm not going to put that much lower here in the sky. I'm going to leave that to kind of be, and then I'll work the wash down in there. So that's all we want to do. We just want to add the fresh clean water up at the top of the page, the paper, and then we just take some more water and we do the same thing here. We add some water along the bottom where we have the little bit of the bay and the waterway in the foreground in the picture. That's always a good thing. Have a little more water here in the bottom of the painting, and the same colors that the sky is going to be, we'll put those same colors right into this here, into the bottom portion of the painting. Now what I will do is I might try to lift up my painting a little bit. Let me see if I can do it. Okay, so I can lift up my painting a little bit. I might do that. So as we're working, I might lift up the paper, the watercolor block, to let the water kind of drip down a little bit. Our sky color, I'm thinking we're going to use cerulean blue. And I'm going to make it very, very light and simple, a little bit of cobalt too. Maybe some cobalt at the very top up here. So I'll put some cobalt in the sky up high. Maybe even a little bit of raw umber in there too, just to give a little variation in color. And then I'll just take some water, and I always say this, the freer and fun you can make your skies, the better off you're going to be. You can kind of see I didn't do much here. I just sort of had a fun time putting in some paint on the sky, and I'm letting everything do its own work. I'm letting the water that I put on the paper, that clear, fresh, clean water, clear water, I put that on the paper first, and then once you put your colors on very quickly and easily and efficiently, you'll see that it just really does its own thing. Let it do its own thing. Watercolor sometimes is best if we don't overwork it. I definitely will have to say that a lot of times watercolors look better when we don't overwork and do too much fancy brush strokes and everything like that. If we just kind of let it happen, we let the, I'll put a little bit of orange along the a touch of orange along the horizon line here, along the bottom of the sky. Just a little bit though, not too much. Just like that. And if you can add that little bit of orange, that's really going to look great. And then, like we said, we're going to take the same colors we used up top in the sky. We're going to put those same colors in this area here. This is going to be grass over here and sort of like marshy areas, but I figured I would just add a little bit of color there first. Maybe a touch of Viridian. Maybe I'll go with just a little bit of purple too in the sky. And this is another time when it's really the right time to take a break or to get the blow dryer and dry off everything, because at this point it really is, it's really too wet and there's too much water flowing around on the paper right now to start working again. You can always take some tissue as well and blot up a little bit of spots if you want to make some more cloud shapes if you want. Sometimes you can kind of add to your whites. So sometimes you leave those little white bits of paper on your sky, and then you can blot and do a little more blotting to kind of give yourself a little more bits of clouds. Like that. All right, so again, let's let this dry. I know this was kind of quick. We worked maybe only 5 or 10 minutes on this, or 15 minutes at most, but you can kind of see the effect of getting lots of fresh, clean water on there, and then getting your colors on, which are very simple. French cerulean blue, cobalt blue, a little bit of green, and a touch of purple too for your sky and your water. Now that this is all on the paper, we can let this dry. I'm going to let this dry for about 15-20 minutes, and then I'll come back and we'll start to finish up the final details of the painting. All right, so we have let this dry. Everything's dry to the touch, so you can take your hand and place it right on the paper, and there's nothing wet. It's all dry. Paper is flattened out quite a bit. There's only a little bit of buckling, very, very little. That's all we need now. Now we can go in and we'll finish up on the details. So I'm going to go back to my smaller brush. and let's get some of those details in. So I would say I'm probably going to work from left to right so that it's a little bit easier. If I do the details, which are not going to be too many on the edges of the painting, we're going to leave those areas kind of relaxed and not too bold with colors and things like that and brush strokes. But let's get our details, and if you're right-handed, you're best off working from left to right. And if you're left-handed, you know, you're better off starting maybe over here and doing your details and then work this way. This way you don't lean into your paint. That's just a good rule to follow. Try to work left to right if you're right-handed, and the opposite if you're left-handed, you're going to be going this way across the painting. And again, I'm going to leave this one a little bit loose, a little bit underdone. I don't have to finish up everything, you know, perfectly 100% because this is an exercise. It's a composition we're doing. So we don't have to worry about extreme details and getting everything ironed out 100%. We're just going to try to get things the best we can. So over here on this portion of the house, it was a little bit darker there. I tended to go a little bit, I'll try to dampen this a little bit to recover that rooftop. And then I'll go here with some more darks for that chimney up top here. Okay. Then I'm going to get some green. I'm going to go with blue actually. Cerulean blue. Maybe a little viridian green. Maybe there's some trees in the back here. Behind the house a little bit. Okay. And a little bit of splashing there just to kind of give it a little texture. And then I'm going to do this here. I'm going to get this a little darker. Try to blend this in. And I will go in and get some darker darks for those windows and a few doors. But I'm going to try to go across here and do another chimney over there. I'm going to blend that in over there. I'm going to make a little bit of a more shadow underneath some of these trees over here. And again, just some shadowing. Nothing too and then some more darks. And that's raw umber, burnt umber, a little bit of French ultramarine blue maybe, and then just maybe a little bit of darks over here. And again, a few spots of just some vegetation, some burnt umber, French ultramarine blue. I just want to get this boat, the bow of the boat there. And there's the stern of the boat. We'll do some reflections. And again, this is part of the process of getting everything kind of finalized. Get your details in now. And that's about it. And then we're going to do the undersides of the roof here. Take off some, I'll rinse off the brush and then dry off a little bit of water on a paper towel or a tissue, and I'll just blend that down a little bit here. And we have a boat over here, two boats over here and a boat over here. We'll use some white, some titanium white to regain these whites over here for the boats. And I think we might let that sort of I'm going to let that set up and let these parts dry now. A little bit of green and brown and blue. Then I'm just going to do a couple really quick some bushes along the side here, just like this. Some dark greens, but not too many, just a few spots. And then I'm going to take that same color and work it down into the water. Then I take some fresh, clean water. And sort of let that and we'll do a little bit of color. So cerulean blue and some viridian green. And I'll just do a little bit of that, a little more darks down too, like reflections. So the darks reflect down into the water. And then I go across and do lines this way. And if you have to go back in and make some more greens and browns, green, brown, blue, cerulean blue, green, blue. And those tend to look pretty good. You can always take a pencil or something and just make a little line. Like that. And then I'll use a little bit of splashing technique. Like that. Splashing over here. We'll do some more darks over here too, just a little bit of just to have some interesting things going on. And then a little bit of raw umber. A little bit of raw umber. And the raw umbers, like the marshy areas where there's some ground. Like that. I think that's looking pretty good. And I just add those lines across. That kind of makes it look more convincing for some water features. Some of these lines, like that. And then if you go over a spot, you want to lift up some paint, like that. And then some more blue, maybe some cobalt blue. I'm going to gray it down a little bit. And then you can just, again, go across a little bit with some of that water effect. I think that usually looks good if you can get those long brush strokes like that a little bit. Okay, and then let's see, we still have a few things to touch up a little bit. What I'll do next is I'm going to get some titanium white, so I'm going to take one more quick break just so I can go find my titanium white, my tube of titanium white, and we can just add a few little highlights of white paint that'll really kind of help us to just finish everything up perfectly, where we have just enough detail in here that it looks good but not overdoing it. So I'll be right back in a second. I also see that I can do one more thing here. Raw umber, burnt umber, a little bit of cerulean blue. This here is the mast, like that. So we have a mast there. And then we can use our needlepoint brush and just get a few. Okay, and we'll use our brushes, our detail brushes, in just a second. I'm just going to get some white paint, so I'll be right back. And we'll have just a little bit more to do. Some white touch-up paint, and we're all set. Okay, so we're going to get our titanium white and get in a few details. I'm going to use my needlepoint brush here. A little bit of yellow ochre in the top of the titanium white, just so it has a little bit of that warm golden color with the white. Titanium white out of the tube is very, very stark white, doesn't have much tint at all to it. So if we can do that, it's going to look more convincing that it's some sunlight. Then I just take my brush and roll the paint so there's only a little bit of paint on the brush. I don't want too much paint. The first thing I'd like to do is just get a little bit of the mast over here. So I just try to touch down the paint just a little bit here and there. Not everywhere. There we go. like that. Perfect. And over here too, we have a boat over here. And I want to do the same thing, just get a little bit of that. And I want to recapture the boat over here. So that's a sailboat over here. And there's two actually over here, two sailboats. And there's another one here. And then we have another mast there, just a little bit. Maybe some rigging lines, just very, very faintly. Maybe there's a boom over here like that. There's the boom over here like that. So I'm just doing a little bit of touch-up. Touch-ups are fun to actually do, because you just use a tiny bit of paint and you can kind of recapture the areas you want to accentuate for the focal point. So we have our boats in. You can also add a little bit of highlights to the water, some reflection I should say, where the boats are. Maybe even a little bit of the waviness to the lines. There's some waviness to, like, maybe there's a couple small reflections like that, just a little indication of it, like so. Same thing here, a little bit of shadow and reflection under there. Same thing here. Okay, a little bit of rigging, a little bit of more water here, and just a very little bit here, just some rigging lines, just a couple quick little, like that. Maybe a little touch of light on the top of the chimney there. Same here, maybe a little bit of, a couple spots of light on the roofs. Maybe over here there's a, I just try to do a quick little bit of brush stroke here. Perfect. Okay, so I think that's complete. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you like my videos and you want to see more videos like this, please hit the thumbs up. Leave comments in the comment section, of course, always, and please subscribe if you really want to keep up with us here on the latest work we're doing constantly on this channel. Just hit the subscribe button. It's right below the screen. You'll see the subscribe button. Hit that. You're all set. Then you'll just see my videos when you're opening up YouTube the next time, and you won't have a hard time finding me. You'll be able to find my videos readily. And thanks again for watching, and we'll see you on the next video. Bye-bye.